Letter of quotation is another document that we are looking at. When we define it, we say is a document that is issued or sent by the seller or the supplier to the buyer in response to the letter of inquiry. Yes, is a document that is sent by the seller or the supplier to the buyer to respond to the letter of inquiry. Meaning the buyer wrote a letter of inquiry to the seller requesting him to quote prices and other items, and now the seller has received the letter of inquiry and is now responding to the queries in the letter of inquiry by sending a document we call a quotation. Therefore, a quotation answers the letter of inquiry. It is the one that tries to respond to the questions that were raised in the letter of inquiry. So this is a quotation document that is issued or sent by the seller to the buyer to respond to the letter of inquiry, trying to give the responses, trying to answer all the questions that were raised in the letter of inquiry. Now I want to look at the components of a quotation. Number one, we have the heading. Number two, name and address of the seller. Number three, name and address of the buyer. Number four, the logo. Number five, telephone contacts. Number six, name of the document. Another one, the date. Another one, quotation number. Another one, item number, the description, unit cost, total cost, E and OE, the total amount, sometimes call it grand, total, signature, name and title of the seller, then signature, name and title of the receiver or the buyer. Then you have what we call a frame, and you have etc. etc. So these are the components of the letter of quotation. In fact, ETC means very many things. The responses are coming in there. So we have defined it, and now we are looking at the components, what it is comprised of. The heading we said is the opening statement, name and address of the seller, the person who is writing a quotation, name and address of the buyer, the person who is receiving the quotation, the logo, the trademark of the business who is writing a quotation, not the logo of the buyer. The telephone contacts can be the telephone contacts of both the seller and the buyer. You can have a contact of the seller, your contact as a seller. You can have a contact of the buyer because he's your client. You have the name of the document, and for this case, now it is none other than the quotation. Then we have the date when you are writing this quotation, because the date comes in when you're writing a quotation. You must have the date when you have written it. Then the quotation number, and as we said, each document has the number. And then the item number, as we said in the other table, item number 1, number 2, what are you buying? Then the description of what you wanted to buy from the seller. We had the desks, we had the benches, we had the office chairs. Then the unit cost. Unit cost, we said this one can also mean the cost per item. The cost per item. Then after that, we want to see if you bought 20 benches, which price is the seller going to give you if you wanted the 20 benches. Then the total cost. The total what? The total cost. The total cost is the total cost of these items. If you bought 20 benches, 30, whatever, 20 what, so all those ones have got their totals. So those totals are added, you multiply by the quantity to get the total item, the total amount. Then E and OE, as we said on every document, we need to have E and OE, errors and the omissions expected. Then total amount, the grand total. The whole document, how much is the total down for all the items you want to buy. Then the name, the signature, name and title of the seller. You who is preparing this document, what is your name? What is your signature? And you work as who in that business. Then from there we need to have the name, signature and the title of the buyer. After writing this document, you have to make sure that you send it for this person who has received it to sign on it. Then do not forget the frame, as it is a requirement for all the documents. So you can see these are on the same component C with other documents. They differ depending on how you are writing them, depending on the document you are writing, but by virtue of looking at the name, they look the same. Then after that, we need to understand that when you are writing a quotation, do not accept to go minus at least, including all, almost all. You can even add their other components so long as they are important and they can help the buyer understand very well, in order for his interest to be aroused, and he continues buying from you. So we follow these components when we are preparing. We are going to pause a bit. We shall come and see how we design a letter of quotation.